In the city of Kenosha are bracing for a verdict in the Rittenhouse case, if we get a verdict at all. Joining me now to break down the details of this trial is Jonathan Smith, defense attorney with Cohn Smith Roth. Mr. Smith, I'm not going to ask you when the verdict will come down because no one can answer that question except the 12 people deliberating, of course. But does how long it's taken so far, nearly 24 hours, we're going into day 4 tomorrow, does that tell us anything?
Well, it certainly tells us that there's some disagreement amongst the jurors. Clearly, the first round of votes resulted in some people having some opinion and some others having another. What we don't know is how deep that division is. Is it a 11-1 split? Is it a 6-6 or some other fraction? Or is it as to all counts, or are they just hung up on one particular count? So, but clearly they are taking their job seriously and going through the evidence.
Yeah, it certainly could be a lot of variations of that. You know, we haven't heard from the jury today. We did hear from the judge earlier today. He barred the news outlet MSNBC from the rest of the trial due to a report that a producer followed the jury bus after deliberations yesterday. Now, MSNBC is kind of denying that there was any intention to follow the jurors. But if that was the case, why is it such a big deal?
Well, the jurors are sacred. For instance, they are told that the parties, if you share an elevator with or you see the lawyer for the case, you aren't supposed to talk to them, and they aren't supposed to talk to you, or even throw you a head nod or a wave or whatnot, because they are supposed to be deciding this case devoid of outside influence. Only decide based upon the evidence heard in the courtroom. And I suppose, the reason that the court discussed that the vans have these windows from which they can't see in or out is so that they aren't seeing the signs or the number of people on one side or the other or what have you that's gathering around the courthouse. So they are supposed to stay focused on the evidence that they heard and saw within the courtroom and make their decisions solely upon that, and not upon sympathy or bias or prejudice.
Absolutely. But all of them are going back to their homes. They haven't been sequestered during this trial, which, has been a bit controversial. Some people have called for that. Obviously, no verdict reached today. There may be no verdict tomorrow. Is there a chance that deliberations spill over into the weekend? How does that work? Explain for our viewers.
Sure. Certainly, the jury can deliberate as long as they wish. At some point, they could indicate to the court that they are deadlocked at some count, and the judge could give what's called an Allen charge based upon a Supreme Court case, basically that says, look, we're not going to hold you hostage here and make you agree, but we would like you to, go back and give it another try and see if you can come to some unanimous decision on all counts. And that's because, obviously the state and the defense and the court has allocated a lot of time to this. The jurors themselves obviously have disrupted their lives and allocated a lot of time to this. So they would like them to take sort of every reasonable effort, but there's no time limit on jury deliberation until, I suppose, eventually, if they did, just say, you know what, we can't come to a completion on any count or all counts.
We know at this point the defense has asked for a mistrial twice, one with prejudice, one without. Can I ask you your gut feeling on this? Do you think that the 12 actually come to a verdict? Do we end with a hung jury, or does this thing wind up being declared a mistrial?
Well, in the 26 years and all the trials that I've done, it's pretty dangerous to try to speculate about jury deliberations and how long and what it means to one side or the other. The mistrial motions are important because you have to make the motion for mistrial at the time it happens, otherwise it's waived. So, the defense attorneys are making their record in case there are negative verdicts to the defense from which they could establish points on appeal. And so, it's important for them to preserve that record. I don't know that I'm certainly troubled by the first issue about commenting on post-arrest silence or an allegation of commenting on that. And certainly the issue regarding this drone footage is of interest, considering it's evidence that was in the possession of the state and the sole possession of the state. Wasn't something that the defense would have independent access to. So there's certainly some causes for concern, but I think the court is taking a reasoned approach in saying, we will decide this. The state has a right to respond to the motions, and we'll just decide them if and when we have to. But, I think at some point there's going to be some pressure with the weekend coming up, and that's no denigration of the jurors. They take their job seriously, no doubt. But, there's going to be some question as to, hey, if we can't get it done in 3 days, 4 days, spilling into tomorrow, is the fifth day going to really make a difference? And I think that's a real question.
All right. Well, only time will tell, and we'll be there for all of it. Jonathan Smith, we appreciate you being with us. Our